Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. And in this video, I want to talk about a story that I just read about Toni Kukoc and how Toni Kukoc was brought to tears when he found out that Michael Jordan was retiring in 1993, guys. And I want to talk about it in this video, man, and just break down some of the comments that Toni Kukoc made in this article that I read. And just, like I said, explain, how Michael Jordan made his teammates feel, how he pushed them, what it meant to someone like Toni Kukoc to play with someone like Michael Jordan, and how upset he was when he found out that Michael Jordan was leaving in 1993. And I want to read off a comment from Michael Jordan in relation to Toni Kukoc and him seeing Toni Kukoc have that emotional response, learning that Michael Jordan was retiring, and him, thinking that he was never going to get a chance to play with Michael Jordan. I thought it was very interesting. And like I said, some of the comments that Toni Kukoc made, I want to read off to you guys in this article. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states, man, has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I am truly, truly humbled by all the support, man. It really means a lot, guys. Like I said, all you guys in the membership, you guys commenting, liking my videos, emailing me, sending me messages, all this stuff, guys. Like I said, it means a lot, guys, for real. Much respect to everybody out there, man, that continues to stand up. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So yes, guys, like I said, man, I came across this article a little while ago, and I was like, you know what? I want to do a video on this, man, because it was really interesting, and I had never heard this before. Maybe you guys have. But the article was talking about Toni Kukoc and his time, on the Chicago Bulls, and when he first came to the Bulls. Now, if you remember, Toni Kukoc from Croatia, the Croatian sensation. I told you guys, I was in Croatia. This was back in, I want to say it was 2000. I was in Croatia in 2000. Then I was there again in like 2002. I want to say it was. And I was in Split, Croatia. And I remember, I was wearing a Michael Jordan jersey one time when I was overseas in Croatia, and people were coming up to me, and there were people coming up to me talking about Toni Kukoc, because Toni Kukoc was in the NBA at that time. Michael Jordan was on the second retirement now, but Toni Kukoc had won those championships with Michael Jordan, and like I said, he was like the great player of Croatia, man, right? He was a big time star in Croatia at that time, man. So shout out to everybody in Croatia that supports my channel, that remembers Toni Kukoc. So anyway, Toni Kukoc gets drafted by the Chicago Bulls in the 1990 draft, guys. A lot of people forget that. Toni Kukoc was drafted in the 1990 draft, but chose to stay and play. I believe he was playing in Italy or for an Italian team. So he stayed in Europe, though. Did not come to the NBA when he was drafted in 1990. That happened several times to several, European overseas players. You would see that often. Guys get drafted, but they didn't really come over for a couple of years later. That was the case for Toni Kukoc. So he was drafted in the 1990 draft, but decided to stay in Europe and play in the Euro leagues that he was playing in. He was dominating overseas, man. Like I said, he's one of the great players over there. And he came to the Chicago Bulls in the 1993 season, right? The 93-94 season, right? So the summer of 93 is when Toni Kukoc came over. But what happened that summer was Michael Jordan was retiring, right? He was stepping away from basketball, right? We all know about his father being murdered tragically, and Michael Jordan just, having a change of heart, essentially, and just, putting, priorities in his life, right? Trying to figure out what he wants to do. And he wanted to honor his father by playing baseball. We get it. So Michael Jordan walks away. We all know about that. But in this article that I'm reading, I did not know the story that Toni Kukoc was crying. He was visibly crying when he found out that Michael Jordan was retiring, because no one knew that Michael Jordan was walking away. So supposedly in this article, there was a meeting, right, with all the Bulls coaches and the Bulls players, right? It was like a closed meeting with just like the staff and the players. And it was Michael Jordan basically, telling everybody that, he was going to step away and, this and that. And Toni Kukoc was in that meeting, and Michael Jordan said that Toni Kukoc was crying, like when he found out that Michael Jordan was leaving. And Michael Jordan, there was a quote from Michael Jordan in this article, and I'm going to read it off to you guys right now. This is what Michael Jordan says when he sees Toni Kukoc crying. Toni Kukoc, who I've never met at that time, came into this room. Now remember, Michael Jordan never really met Toni Kukoc, but he knew who Toni Kukoc was. If you remember the 92 Olympics, the Dream Team, and Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen attacking Toni Kukoc during that Olympics when they played against Croatia, right? And they took it personal because they knew that Jerry Krause, right, was always pumping up Toni Kukoc. That was his boy. So they made a personal attack on Toni Kukoc because of Jerry Krause. And I remember there was a quote from, and this quote really made me respect the hell out of Toni Kukoc as a true competitor, man. And this really showed that Toni Kukoc wasn't a soft European, wasn't a, one of those weak dudes or whatever. He wasn't weak mentally, that he was a legit competitor, man. I remember listening to Toni Kukoc talking about that time in the 92 Dream Team, right? And he talked about how at halftime, remember, they played Croatia twice. If I remember correctly, they played them once during the tournament, and then I believe they played Croatia in the championship, right? And they beat them both times, obviously. But the first time was an epic proportions beatdown. In the championship, it was a lot more respectable. But in the first matchup, that's when Pippen and Jordan really jumped on Toni Kukoc, and they took it personal. Remember, they said, hey, I'm taking him now, then you can guard. And they took turns switching off on Toni Kukoc. Now, we're talking about Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, two of the elite perimeter defenders in the history of the NBA at their peaks. This is 1992. You're going against two of the elite wing defenders ever. And I remember at halftime, Toni Kukoc talking, and he said that at halftime, his teammates came up to him, and they were like, yo, man, what did you do to these guys that they're all over you like that? Like, what's going on? Like, did you do something to these guys? Like, it seems personal with them. The way that they're guarding you, the way that they're all over you, blah, blah, blah. And Toni Kukoc's response, to me, this was just, like I said, I had a lot of respect for Toni Kukoc when he said this. Toni Kukoc said, he looked at them and said, hey, I guess that's just the way they play defense in the NBA. That was an amazing, amazing quote. Because even if he thought that they were being a little extra physical, if it was a personal attack on him, right, he felt a certain kind of way about how they were guarding Toni Kukoc, the aggression towards him. Maybe he was confused. Instead of making an excuse, instead of playing the victim, being a baby, being mentally weak, not being a true competitor, and telling his teammates, yeah, I don't know what's up with these guys, man. They're all over me. They're grabbing me. They're hitting me. They're doing this. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Toni Kukoc looked him in the eye and was like, I guess that's how they play defense in the NBA, man. And that is the truth. I keep telling you guys, back in the day, it was the European players that was seen and viewed as soft, as weak, as floppers. The Americans, we were known for being tough. That's how we were always viewed as far as sports goes. Basketball, we was seen as tough, man. Like, you didn't want to mess with the Americans, man. We weren't going to back down. We weren't floppers. We weren't frail. And Toni Kukoc said, I guess that's how they play defense in the NBA. That's how they play the game in the NBA. Word up, man. Much respect for Toni Kukoc. But back to the comments from Michael Jordan. So like I said, he never really met Toni Kukoc, but he knew who he was. So he says, Toni Kukoc, who I've never met at that time, came into this room. And when he broke down in tears, that really softened what I was really about to do. Because here's this guy who's showing emotions, and he never had the opportunity to play with me. And I felt guilty that I was taking an opportunity away from him. That was Michael Jordan's direct quote from when he saw Toni Kukoc crying in that moment when Michael Jordan announced that he was retiring that season. So Toni Kukoc, he starts explaining like what his thought process was. Like I said, he didn't come in 1990. He waited till 93. So listen to what Toni Kukoc says. He says, I took the risk, talking about coming over to America. I took the risk because I won everything. There was a period of 4 or 5 years in Europe. I won everything. 4 in a row national championships. 3 in a row European championship. 2 European world championships with the national team. I won everything that could be. And I was MVP in all of those. I said, I can play with Michael and Scottie, these guys, so maybe I get a chance to win that one too. Right? It was about the winning. He knew that he was going to a team that had just won 3 championships in a row. You're playing with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, a great dynamic duo. And now you can come in and perhaps continue that streak of winning that you've been accustomed to in Europe. Right? Now, Toni Kukoc knew that he was going to have to take a back seat to a Michael Jordan, to a Scottie Pippen, but he was ready and prepared to contribute to win a championship. So that was part of the risk that he took to come to the Chicago Bulls when he did, to become a winner at the highest level, the NBA. So you see that the thought process of Toni Kukoc, and you see how the emotions came over him when he realized that he couldn't play with someone that he really revered and looked up to, Michael Jordan. He really respected. Now, I'm going to read off another quote here from Toni Kukoc. This is Toni Kukoc talking about how Michael Jordan helped him. The most significant way that Toni Kukoc said that Michael Jordan helped him. Listen to this comment, guys. This is just really great what Toni Kukoc says here, man. And it really gives you, like I said, it basically explains everything that I've been saying to you guys on here. Right on the money, but Toni Kukoc says here. Listen to this. To me, the most significant help was being there every day and seeing what he's, talking about Jordan, he's doing day in and day out to be who he is. In those few years, I had a chance to play with him. He never missed a practice. Never missed a game. So many wins, MVPs, but he still found a reason every day to come to that practice and learn something new, to push all of us there to give our maximum day in and day out. Our practices were tougher than 60 to 70% of the games we played. You can't do that without a leader that's there every day. That was Michael for us. So, my goodness, Toni Kukoc just breaks it down brilliantly here, beautifully here, and just gives you all the facts, everything that I've been telling you guys. We've talked about the practices. I mean, listen to what Toni Kukoc says. To me, the most significant help was being there every day and seeing what he's doing day in and day out to be who he is. He said in those few years, he never missed a practice, never missed a game. Never miss a practice or a game. That's called leading by example. That's what Toni Kukoc is talking here when he says you can't do that without a leader that's there every day. Every day. There's no load managing for Michael Jordan in the games or the practices. He's there every day giving you that same effort and intensity, pushing the teammates like Toni Kukoc said here. He's out there to come to practice and learn something new, to push all of us there, to give our maximum day in and day out. What do I tell you guys all the time on this channel? Michael Jordan pushing his teammates, pushing them so that they can become greater, seeing something in them that they didn't see in themselves, like he saw in Scottie Pippen, pushing these guys, right? Leading them by example, walking the walk and talking the talk. Not just say as I say, do as I do. That's Michael Jordan. That's the leadership. That's what Toni Kukoc remembers. And he said that was the most significant help to his career. That's what helped him become great, he said. Watching Michael Jordan in practice. The intensity, the effort, the focus. Coming to practice day in and day out, he said, and still finding a way to get better. Looking for ways to get better. Looking for something new. That's Michael Jordan. This is why Toni Kukoc was so upset when he found out Michael Jordan was leaving in '93. He didn't know if he was going to get a chance to play with Michael Jordan ever again. We all know he ended up playing with Michael Jordan. They won 3 championships. Toni Kukoc was 6th man of the year in 1996. Had a very solid NBA career and is in the Hall of Fame because of his NBA and European careers combined. One of the great European players in the history of European basketball, man. The Croatian sensation, the waiter, Toni Kukoc, man. Much respect to him. I have so much respect for Toni Kukoc to this day because Toni Kukoc continues to carry himself with integrity, with class, and with honor. You hear Toni Kukoc speak, he's not like a bitter person. He doesn't sound like someone who's envious or jealous of some of these other guys, Michael Jordan and none of these. Remember, it was Toni Kukoc who asked Michael Jordan to induct him into the Hall of Fame. Michael Jordan didn't say no. He obliged. He did that for Toni Kukoc. And once again, Toni Kukoc showing the level of respect by asking Michael Jordan to be there for his Hall of Fame induction and then mentioning what Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen meant to him during those years in Chicago. But it was Michael Jordan as the leader, the practices that Toni Kukoc remembers. And like I said, for Toni Kukoc at that time in '93 to be crying like that, to be that emotional because he thought Michael Jordan was retiring and he didn't think he was ever going to be able to play with him. That really shows you, like I said, what Michael Jordan meant to people at that time, what he still means to people. And once again, when Toni Kukoc is talking, about the sacrifices and the risks that he took to leave Europe, right, to come overseas, when he did, he was mostly doing this to win. And he didn't know if he was going to be able to win without Michael Jordan there, right? And he wanted to play with Michael Jordan. I'm sure that was part of the allure of him coming to play in Chicago, to come to the United States. Damn, you got a chance to play with Michael Jordan. You got to jump on that. And everything that Toni Kukoc says in this clip here, in the article, in this quote, I mean, outstanding. Like I said, it really gives you a look into what it meant. I mean, he says here, our practices were tougher than 60 to 70% of the games we played. How many times have we heard that? B.J. Armstrong, Craig Hodges, Scottie Pippen. A lot of these guys, Horace Grant, Steve Kerr, John Paxson, Bill Cartwright, Cliff Livingston, Ron Harper. I've heard a lot of these guys talk about how hard and intense the practices were. The trash talk, Michael Jordan playing on the second unit, going after Scottie Pippen, going after Horace Grant, going after these guys, Steve Kerr, Paxson, going at these guys, having them prepared, going at Ron Harper, going at Toni Kukoc, so that these guys could get to the level that Michael Jordan knew they had to get for them to be a winner. Michael Jordan knew what it took. He knew what they had to do. He knew what he had to sacrifice. Remember, Michael Jordan said, I was willing to pay the price of leadership. There's a price that comes with leadership, and I had to pay that price. And he did pay that price. And guys like Toni Kukoc respected Michael Jordan for paying that price, for being there every single day. You think Michael Jordan had to be there every day in practice at that point in time in his career? He didn't have to be like that, but the man was there, giving the effort. He wasn't lollygagging, going through the motions. That's not what Toni Kukoc was talking about. He said this man never missed a practice, never missed a game. This dude wasn't missing preseason games. He was going out there. And remember, this is in 1996. This is right after the 94 season, the 95 season that they were coming off of, right? The disappointments. This is 1996 now. Toni Kukoc is there. Michael Jordan is back, doing his thing, having the Bulls ready, and you go on a three-peat, man. I mean, it's just insane when you think about, some of the things that Toni Kukoc had to deal with on the Chicago Bulls. I mean, remember in 1994, Toni Kukoc gets the chance to shoot that last shot against the New York Knicks, and Scottie Pippen apparently thinks Phil Jackson's racist for that. Right? It was Scottie Pippen who didn't want to go in the game, who turned his back on Toni Kukoc. How do you think Toni Kukoc felt in that moment when Scottie Pippen acts that way? Because essentially, you're acting that way because of Toni Kukoc, essentially. Like, who the hell is this guy to take the last second shot when Toni Kukoc was known for being that dude? But Scottie Pippen thought that he was Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan wasn't there anymore. You were never Michael Jordan. You're never going to be like Michael Jordan. Toni Kukoc was known for being a knockdown shooter. Scottie Pippen wasn't a leader like that. So Toni Kukoc had to deal with that drama his first year in Chicago in the playoffs, right? Getting picked to take the shot, Scottie Pippen acting the way he did. You tell me that didn't hurt Toni Kukoc's feelings a little bit, man, or make him feel a certain way? And then you have the 1995 season. Remember, guys, the 1995 season, they never want to talk about the 95 season. The Bulls were completely falling apart. They were completely derailed. Everything was all messed up. Yeah, Scottie Pippen pointed at his sneakers telling Michael Jordan to come back. So Toni Kukoc had to deal with those two seasons until Michael Jordan came back, and then they went on that run. So much respect to Toni Kukoc, like I said, for keeping it real, for putting this out there, saying this. Like I said, I thought there was a very interesting article that Michael Jordan felt, Michael Jordan even felt bad that he was, taking away an opportunity, he said, from Toni Kukoc to play with him. He didn't realize it was going to mean that much. He said, I come in here and I see this guy in tears. He's like, and that really softened, what I was about to do here. He's like, I see this guy showing his emotions and he never had an opportunity to play with me. Michael Jordan felt bad about that, man. And like I said, that shows how much Michael Jordan meant to Toni Kukoc. And like I said, what he meant to the game of basketball for a lot of people out there, man. But Be Like Mike commercials, it was a true thing. And like I said, what Toni Kukoc said about Michael Jordan always showing up, always being there, always being prepared, pushing the team, how hard the practices were. I mean, and the leadership of Jordan, that says it all, guys. That's a big part of why the Bulls were able to reach the heights that they reached. Because Michael Jordan led by example. He pushed his teammates in practice. He didn't lollygag. He didn't take shortcuts. And he refused to take anything less. That's what Toni Kukoc said. He pushed us to maximize us. To give our all. You guys know the deal, man. Like I said, shout out to Toni Kukoc, who continues to carry himself with the integrity and the class, man, when he speaks. No bitterness, no nonsense, just keeping it real, man. You guys know the deal. I'll catch you guys on the next one.